Okay, for this project, I'm starting out with some hardbound books. Now, I found these at the thrift store. These were $2.99 each. Although there are places online that you can get hardback books for relatively cheap, for about $1 a piece. And condition doesn't really matter because we're going to age them, so the poorer the condition, almost the better. So I would just look for something that's nice and thick. This is 800 pages long. I chose this book just because it was one that didn't look too interesting, so I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong by painting it. So then once I take this book jacket off, I can discard this. I don't need this portion anymore. And I'm going to take my plain bound book here, and this is where I'm going to start adding molds to it. So I take a modeling material. This one is by Redesign with Prima, and I will cast it into molds. They offer a variety of silicone molds. I've got a whole bunch out here on my table. It's kind of a mess. So, for example, what's a good one? I will take this floral here. I can take a piece of the modeling material. It's just like a Play-Doh almost, and it air dries, so I can press it into the mold. I will use my fingers and press firmly. On the larger ones, I use the palm of my hand, and then if you rub it against the silicone, the excess pieces of the modeling material will come out, and I just stick those back onto the block. They can be reused again later. Okay, so once my back is nice and flat, I've got nice clean edges along the edges of my silicone. I can take, and these are flexible molds, so it will pop. Will pop out, and it's not too flexible. So now I've got a nice floral mold that I can add to my book. So from there, I take the molds that I've made, and these are some that I've already got made, and I will place them onto my book, however, in any design that I think looks nice. I usually will try to kind of layer them so I'm hiding. You can't tell that they're all these piecemeal together basically. So that's probably a little much. Let's see if I can move this, and you can kind of play with whatever design or pattern you like until you come up with one you want. And then I used E6000, which is an all-purpose adhesive. My tube has seen better days. But I use E6000 and attach these to the book. So I'm going to move this one to the side. I'll come back to it and finish that one up later. And this is one here that I've already got done. This is more of a floral pattern. And I took a whole bunch of different molds. So I used a keyhole so it kind of looks like a fake, maybe a diary. And then I created a binding on this side, wrapped these here. So it looks like a bound book. So once I've got all my molds attached, I'm going to take my Dixie Belle paint. This is Dixie Belle paint in cotton. I'm just going to put a layer of paint onto this book and over my moldings. So I'm using the Dixie Belle brush, the Dixie Belle Mini, and I'm going to go nice and heavy on the paint. I actually use a little bit of my paint to kind of dig into the crevices of this mold and cover up any gaps that happen when you glue it down. There's a little one right there. The little gap inside my keyhole is another one. So I want to make sure I'm getting in all these crevices some paint in there. So, okay, so now I've got my book and I have all my molds attached to this side here. And I do want to add that I went back, and after my hot glue had dried, I did not like the hot glue as an option. It did not hold the pieces on. They would pull right off once it had all dried. And I don't know if that's because the molds were wet when I put them on, but I do not like hot glue as an option. I actually ended up with my final products being done with Gorilla Glue wood glue. That's what sticks. It seemed to set up fairly quick to where they didn't move around a lot. That's my favorite option so far, unless we can think of a better one. So now I've got basically every redesigned decor wax. I've got all the artisan powders. Another option for this would be the memory, or not the memory hardware, but the what are the other waxes that Prima carries? The colorful ones. Those would be great for decorating these. I've got my Dixie Belle gilding waxes. So this is a great chance to get our fingers dirty and use all the waxes and powders to decorate these flowers. So I'm going to start out with my gilding waxes. This is unsealed paint. I'm sorry, my decor waxes. My fingers are dirty because I've been out here working. So this is Milky Way. It's the iridescent pink. I'm just going to add some iridescence to this flower. Now this will also give me something for my powders to stick to once I start adding powders. I'm just going to rub this on. Okay, you can't really tell that it's on there. It's very subtle, but it's very pretty. And then I'll come back with, say, this is my artisan powder in Paris Rose. So this can really just kind of be a time to play. Get a feel for the powders and the waxes. I have a variety of artist brushes out. Let's see. I like something a little firmer for the powders. And now I've got that gilding wax in there, and that's giving me something for my artisan powders to stick to also. This is the Paris Rose artisan powder. That's really pretty. Blow that off. I'm just using a little rag or paper towels would work for this to kind of wipe my edges away. And then that shows the powders just sticking in to the crevices on there. That's really pretty. And then I can come back with, let's see, the Anastasia gilding wax. This is a combination of the redesign and the Dixie Belle gilding waxes. And I can hit my top edges of the flower with some of the Anastasia, kind of feather that in. I'm just winging it. I don't have a plan for all these colors, but I actually like this combination a lot. So I also think that this gives some good options on how to use these different products. So I feel like people are going to expect me to do blending. I don't always do blending with paint, with just paint. So this is other products that you can create those shaded effects, the gradated effects, color variation, you know, things like that that I achieve, but I don't always use paint for them. So that's a really, really pretty look on there. And that's just using the 3 waxes and then that 1 artisan powder. So I'm going to come now and I'll do a little bit of greenery. So I'm going to start with my artisan powder in French Sage. And I just pour a little bit into the lids, but you know, we can figure out how to do that. And then I'm going to use my same brush. I have a towel on the table, which is a good idea because then I can just wipe my brush on the towel and use the same one with the powders and the waxes. So I'll come in here and I don't have any wax on this, but actually the powders work okay dry over the dry paint. And then I just blow them off. But I could take some of my, so that's a leaf done dry. I'll come over here and I'll use a little bit of the Redesign Decor Wax in Green Aurora. And if I put this on first, I have still the pink on my finger. So I can put this on first, and then we can see the difference of how that artisan powder takes a little bit differently with a wax on the surface. I'm going to rub it into my crevices. Okay, and then back to my artisan powder. I'll dig that into the crevices, and this will give me a whole different look with that little bit of wax on there. So I blow off the excess, and then I'll take my little rag and I can wipe off the high points. That gives me some variation. If I'm getting it out here onto my book, I actually can take clear wax, or this is easy peasy spray wax, spray a little dab onto my same rag, and I can come around here and clean up around the edges. But we can also just come back and age those with some Dixie dirt. So far, I think this is a really pretty look of how to give color to the molds, and this is just on top of white. So I think a colored background would be really pretty. But I'm going to keep going. I will continue giving color to this. Got some little bees on here I can add some metallics to, and some dark waxes, you know, flowers and leaves. So I think just putting all of these out on the table would be a lot of fun. There's really like so many combinations, and we can play with putting wax under them, putting them on dry, sealing with easy peasy spray wax first, and then putting them on. All different types of looks you can get from these.